Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to Femcel Psychology Part 3, Anger, Bitterness, and Jealousy. We are going to talk about the psychology of femcells in the Black community in particular. So, number one, they nitpick with others in order to deflect attention away from themselves. So these types of women, they love to embarrass others in public. So sometimes they will try to embarrass a man in public. Like, let's say you're on a date with a guy or something, or you're flirting with someone. A femcel, she will try to come in and cock block. She will try to embarrass him, or she will embarrass you. And so femcells, because they can't receive any attention on their own, the only attention they get is if they're bashing someone else. So like, look at some of the content creators who try to bash the exotical space. They have no actual talking points on their channel. They have no actual community of subscribers on their channel. Think about the main people that bash Exoticals. Do they even have a name for their stands? No, they don't, because they don't have any stands. They don't have a pedestal of their own. They're workhorses. Femcells are women who have spent their lives as mules. So they've spent their lives as social martyrs. They have spent their lives muling away at a job, being the workhorse in the cubicle. These are the basic Bettys. These are the women who gave up on their own dreams, and they've just been working hard and seeing minimal results for their effort. And so if you think about all of the different YouTube channels that are threatened by the exotical space, if you think about the basic Bettys at your job who are threatened by you, if you think about less pretty women who are threatened by your beauty, the reason they're threatened is because they've put in all of this effort to be pretty. They put in all of this effort in their YouTube channel. They put decades into their career, and they still are seeing minimal results. Whereas you, because you have an internal locus of control, you are receiving maximum results with minimal effort. So maybe you only needed 1 or 2 tweaks to increase your pretty privilege. They needed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 50, 11 different beauty enhancements just so they could be average. So that is really what femcells get mad about. They get mad about the fact that you are a little bit more effortless. They get mad at the fact that they played the game wrong and that they didn't know how to social climb. Number 2, femcells speak based on emotions and triggers rather than logic, and they are constantly seeking protection from random strangers. So, for example, femcells will use the talking point, if you disagree with me, you're colorist. If you don't date me, you're colorist, you're texturist, you're featurist. If you don't think I'm pretty, you're fatphobic. So they are constantly speaking based on emotions or triggers. So if you have a talking point that is actually based on logic, there is no way that they can hear it because a femcel is living in a constant state of PTSD. And so she doesn't really have the capacity to think critically. Think about how your brain is actually wiring if you're in a constant state of fight or flight. A lot of femcel women in the Black community, they're in a constant state of fight or flight. And I've noticed that usually their initial reaction is going to be fight, constantly in fight mode. So I will upload a video and then boom, next thing you know, there's an angry Black woman uploading a response video. She's in fight mode. She is in a constant state of trauma. She's in a constant state of PTSD. So that's one of the mindsets of a femcel. She is constantly emotionally triggered. She is living her life from trigger to trigger to trigger. Anything that you do and say is going to trigger either an insecurity, it's going to trigger a negative memory. So this is actually what happens in the exotical space all the time. Femcells will see our titles or they will see our imagery and then they'll be like, oh, you don't think that unambiguous Black women are pretty? And it's like, wow, all I did was post a picture of Beyonce and now you're feeling insulted. That's a trigger. A trigger means that you see something and it triggers a negative memory inside of you. So it's like, just because you've been called ugly, if you think about femcells, they've got tens of thousands of negative memories. They've got tens of thousands of negative experiences that are tied to their skin tone, tied to their facial features, tied to their body or whatever it is. So femcells tend to actually speak only based on their emotional traumas and based on their triggers rather than logic. And another thing about femcells is they're very emotionally codependent. So they seek protection from random strangers. This is why they say, oh, Black men don't protect us. When they say that Black men don't protect them, for example, they're not talking about physical protection. They're not saying that they want random Black strangers to be their bodyguards. No, they're talking about emotional protection. Black women who are femcells, they want you to protect their reputation. That's what they're talking about. So a woman who has this femcell mindset, she's constantly seeking emotional protection from random strangers. And so this is why people get mad at the exotical space, because they're like, oh, when you tell your story times, you're making us the villain in your story. Okay, so you're seeking protection from a random channel on YouTube, Exoticals United. We've never even met. I don't even know who you are. You don't know who I am. You never will. So it's like you're seeking this social and emotional protection from people that don't even know you. That's an incredible form of codependency. That's emotional codependency. So a lot of these women with this femcell mindset, they came from horrible backgrounds. They came from bad mothers, bad fathers. They came from these households to where they never received any sort of social or emotional protection, and they never learned how to protect themselves. Because as a normal, healthy, functioning adult, you should know how to regulate your own emotions. Emotional regulation is something that you learn in childhood. You don't throw tantrums and throw stuff across the hallway. You know, that kind of behavior is stuff that toddlers do. But for the women who have this femcell mindset, they never progressed emotionally past being a toddler or past being a teenager. So this is why you see the catty behavior. Think about all this catty behavior. That's teenage behavior. Usually 13-year-olds are the ones who are catty and tried to pull your hair and cut your hair off or bash you or gossip and stuff. So catty behavior, that's actually a sign of emotional immaturity. So femcells, they're actually extremely emotionally codependent. So they're seeking after strangers to protect their reputation. They don't know how to social climb or how to build their own positive reputation for themselves. They never learned that skill, because their environment was filled with low status people. You only learn how to build your reputation from people who have a good reputation and they have high status. So femcells are often low status women who were raised and surrounded by other low status women and men. And so they don't know how to build their own positive reputation. They don't know how to build a positive brand for themselves. They've never even encountered a human being in their everyday life who has a positive reputation or a positive brand. So they have been surrounded by losers, and I hate to use that term, but I don't know what other word to use. So they've been surrounded by people who are constantly losing in life. So maybe their mother was a loser, their father was a loser, their baby daddy was a loser, all their friends were losers, all their sisters were losers. So they don't understand how to build their own reputation, and they don't know how to build positive social status for themselves. And so they seek after social protection from random people that they've never met. And then they will struggle with comparing themselves to other women. So for example, one of the talking points they'll say is white women are protected by their men, Asian women are protected by their men. That is absolutely false. That is one of the most idiotic talking points I've ever heard in my life. White women and Asian women, no, they're actually not protected by their men. What are you talking about? Women of other races are currently being oppressed by men, not just in the United States, but in Asian countries and all over the world. But the difference between the non-black women versus the black women who have this inferiority complex, it's literally just their mindset. So the Asian women, for example, or the white women who still have confidence and self-esteem, the reason that they even have that self-esteem, it's not because white men are randomly protecting them. It's because those women knew how to manifest a sense of pride and a sense of self-esteem and social status and a positive self-image or a positive reputation for themselves. Human beings are not a monolith. So it's not like, oh, everybody black is just unprotected and everybody white is protected. No, a part of your responsibility as an adult is being able to protect yourself physically and emotionally. But usually when women say that they're not protected, they really mean emotionally. They're not talking about you being their bodyguard. They're talking about you protecting their emotions, you protecting their self-esteem, you protecting their sense of beauty. And so those are all things that you should have been building. You should have been building your self-esteem from childhood, sis. Your mother should have been telling you you were beautiful. Your father should have been telling you you were beautiful. And this is why I point back to the mother and father and the family background of women who have kind of this femcell mindset, because they don't understand the basics of self-esteem. They don't understand the basics of femininity. Any woman who is struggling with her femininity is a woman who did not have a lot of feminine role models. And so she doesn't even know where to begin. She doesn't know how to dress for her body type. She doesn't know how to find a foundation that matches her skin tone. She doesn't know how to even do her own hair, because some women's mothers were so neglectful to them to where they didn't even teach their own daughters basic hygiene for their hair, like how to wash their hair, how to condition it, how to make sure it doesn't fall out, how to make sure it doesn't grow mold and mildew. So a lot of women who have this femcel mindset are women who have been emotionally neglected and emotionally abused by their own mothers and fathers. And so they're living in this constant state of PTSD. So that's why they tend to speak based on emotions. They speak based on their triggers. Usually they're speaking based on negative emotions, by the way. Have you ever noticed that? A woman who has a femcel, she only addresses you when she's angry. Have you ever had like a femcel auntie or a femcel sister or a femcel mother or a femcel cousin? She only talks to you when she's angry. She only calls you into the room when she wants to reprimand you. She only responds when she's triggered. This is why a lot of women who are femcels in the Black community fall for rage bait. Rage bait only works on people who have PTSD. Rage bait only works on people who are emotionally dysregulated. This is why I say that the femcels, they're very emotionally dysregulated because they're looking to Black men to regulate their emotions. They're looking to white men to regulate their emotions. They're looking to the exotical space to regulate their emotions. Emotional regulation is something that you should have learned by about, 17 or 18 years old? That is something that should have been taught to you in the family structure. But because a lot of femcel-minded women in the Black community come from bad family structures, they don't understand how to do that. And they will hide behind social justice in order to seek social status. So they will accuse you of being colorist, texturist, or featurist if you don't blindly follow everything they do and say. But in reality, if you look at a lot of the colorism, texturism, and featurism talking points, they are all based on social status. Oh, I didn't get a role in Hollywood. I didn't get a date. I didn't get as many likes on social media. All of that is social status. It has nothing to do with social justice. Now, if they were talking about prison sentences or women being unalived or medical statistics or something like that, then you could argue that that is social justice. But the majority of colorism, texturism, and featurism content in Black femcel spaces, it is based solely on social status. So they're attempting to use this social justice warrior mindset in order to silence the women that they perceive as having more social status than them. This is why people called me fat phobic, because they know that a lot of us over here care about being skinny and having a healthy weight, and they'll be like, well, you're fat phobic. Okay, so now you're just attempting to silence us from talking about being at a healthy weight because you know that statistically, 80% of like Black women, for example, are like overweight. So they tend to be social justice warriors, and they will hide behind social justice in order to attain social status. Because whenever you ask Black women in kind of these femcel spaces, whenever you ask them, hey, what's the solution to colorism, texturism, or featurism? They either have no solutions, or they will say that the solution is corrective promotion. So that, once again, that's an external locus of control because they're saying Black men need to promote me. White women and white men and white Hollywood needs to promote me. YouTube algorithms need to promote me. Dating app algorithms need to promote me. So once again, all of that is external. You're relying on Hinge.com. You're relying on YouTube.com. You're relying on Steven Spielberg and all these other people. You're literally shirking off the responsibility and putting pressure on these people that you've never met, these people that don't know you, these people that have no loyalty to you. And that's actually entitlement, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But they put pressure on other people to promote them. They put pressure on other people to elevate them because they don't know how to elevate themselves. And this all goes back to being in that constant state of PTSD. PTSD symptoms are like being in fight or flight mode. And for a lot of Black women femcels that I've encountered on this channel, it's usually fight mode. It's usually fight mode and then flight from the Black community. That's what the divestment is. It's a trauma response. A lot of those women have had horrible traumas from the Black community. And so as a part of their PTSD response, they're flying away, they're in flight mode from the Black community. So they're rushing to get into the Hispanic community, the white community. And so For them, a lot of them get jealous of multicultural or multiracial women because we are already adjacent to the Hispanic community, or we're in the Hispanic community because our own family members are from that background, or that's in our DNA. And so that's another side effect of this whole femcel PTSD thing. Number 4, femcels are in survival mode. They are usually struggling financially, which causes them to be financially codependent and desperate for a man with money. Usually they will take their Instagram pictures in the projects, or they will spend their leftover money on acrylic nails at the end of the month as opposed to saving and investing. A lot of them are very financially illiterate and know nothing about starting or running a business, and a lot of them lack leadership skills. Okay, so if you want to succeed in a capitalistic society, and if you want to succeed in business as a woman, you have to have good leadership skills. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be disciplined. You have to be consistent. But if you are in a constant state of PTSD, and if you are constantly just being emotionally triggered left and right, you won't even be able to withstand the pressures of that responsibility of being a businesswoman. Think about the amount of time and effort it takes for me to run this YouTube channel, for example. I'll just use YouTube as an example. You have to upload every single day. You have to edit the video, or you have to hire editors. You have to manage your community. So you have to pick moderators. You have to collaborate with other creators if you want to. So you have to maintain positive relationships. A woman who has a femcel mindset and has extreme PTSD and emotional dysregulation, those are the types of women that can't collaborate with others. They can't collaborate with others and get along with other content creators long term. They're always in a beef. They're always in drama. Have you ever met basic Betties like this at your job? She's always arguing with someone. She's always in a beef with someone. You've only been working there for 1 week and she's already talking shit about someone. So women who have this femcel background and this femcel tendency, they can't even successfully social climb financially because they literally don't even understand how to navigate financial culture. Yes, that's right. Being financially literate and being able to operate in high socioeconomic spaces, that is an actual skill. And because a lot of femcels tend to come from an emotionally neglectful or abusive or, a bad environment, they don't know how to go to business meetings and get people to hop on their bandwagon or kind of support what they're doing. They're not good at generating support for themselves because they're not good at supporting others. Usually people only want to support someone that they believe is a good person. And if you want to come off as a good person, you kind of have to be emotionally regulated. That's a part of being a mature adult. And so oftentimes what you'll see, I will use YouTube as an example. If you see these emotionally dysregulated people creating YouTube channels, usually they're going to actually attract an emotionally dysfunctional audience. We saw that happen with Chrissy. Look at Chrissy's audience. I can see why Chrissy decided to stop posting on YouTube as much, because she had a lot of emotional dysfunction, and so she attracted this emotionally dysfunctional audience. This is why you see a lot of femcel black women who start these YouTube channels and stuff, and then their own audience will turn on them. Their own audience will say that they don't like their content. Their own audience will have this mindset of nothing she does is ever good enough for them. Think about Normani and the fan base that she attracted, and how her fan base, unambiguous dark-skinned black women who usually were femcels, nothing that Normani did was good enough for them. Her music wasn't good enough. She's not pretty enough. Her hair's not done enough. They talked about her lace fronts. They talked about her makeup. They said her nose was too big. They said that her face does nothing for her social status, so essentially she wasn't pretty enough. Think about how they treated Francesca Rivers, who was another unambiguous black woman that black femcels came against. So if you have an audience, in terms of business, if you want to be a businesswoman, Pretty Girl Club, never appeal to the femcel audience. Always try to repel them at all costs, because you don't want those types of women supporting you, because those types of women will turn on you so quickly. And then those same women will turn around and say, there aren't enough dark-skinned, unambiguous black women who are actresses. Yeah, because you don't support them, just like Francesca Rivers. They have a scarcity mindset. That's why. Femcels have a mindset of nothing you do is ever good enough. And this goes back to their childhood. It's because she was never good enough for her own mother. She was never good enough for her own father. Her mother was never good enough for her father. Her mother was never good enough for Big Mama and them. So it's an intergenerational trauma. And because these women lack knowledge of sociology and psychology, which is what this channel specializes in, because they lack knowledge, they can never overcome that internalized trauma that they have. Number 5, bad wigs, makeup, and clothing. These women usually do not have strong mother or father figures. Usually they do not have feminine women or masculine men in their life to train them on how to properly do things that suit their actual facial features or body types. So for example, when I was growing up, my mother and my grandmother and aunties and sisters taught me how to do my hair, how to do my makeup. So like I was around feminine, confident women who had a similar phenotype to me. And so they taught me how to style my hair, how to grow my hair out. And my father and uncles and grandfather and all the men in my life that I grew up around, they taught me like, hey, that looks really beautiful when you wear your hair like that, or that looks good, or like your makeup looks natural, or no, that's too much makeup. That doesn't match your skin tone. So I had both women and men telling me from the time I was a child how to properly dress, how to properly do things that suit my skin tone, things that suit my hair texture, how to wear clothes that suit my body type. So a lot of women who are femcels, they come from a background where they have been extremely neglected. And so a lot of the basic things that other young women are learning, like how to shower and, very basic stuff, it's actually pretty embarrassing. A lot of the basic things that other young women are learning around 13 or 12 years old, those women, they're very behind. It's almost like they're developmentally delayed socially. They're emotionally stunted, they're socially stunted, so they don't really pick up on social cues as well. They don't pick up on like beauty cues as much, or they're simply too scared and they lack the courage to go after their beauty goals. I've noticed that's actually a very big overarching theme with femcels is they lack courage. They're cowardly. I have never met a femcel who is bold and courageous. No, it's always a woman who's very cowardly. She's too scared to truly go after her dreams. She's too scared to start that business. She's too scared to do the hairstyle for herself. She's too scared to meet her own internalized beauty goals. She's too scared to get the liposuction. She's scared to put on makeup or scared to do the surgery or whatever it is that she secretly wants to do. So a lot of femcel women, they're actually afraid of their own desires. And a part of this comes from their family background, is because their mother and father didn't encourage them. Her mother didn't encourage her to go to college or to go after being a doctor or to go after being an accountant. Her father didn't encourage her to try that new hairstyle or the new hair color or to try the red lipstick or whatever, just basic stuff. She was never encouraged. And so femcels, they're very discouraging to other people. So this is why I talk about how being raised by femcels, that's actually a form of a generational curse. And I don't really believe in, I'm not a very spiritual person or whatever. I'm not trying to over-spiritualize it, but I don't know what other phrase to use. It's like a generational curse where you're a femcel, your mom was a femcel, your grandma was a femcel, all your aunties are femcels. So you're surrounded by these low vibrational women and men. Maybe your dad was an incel, he was an abuser or a narcissist or whatever. Your mom was an enabler. So they were surrounded by this bad family background, or in some cases, maybe a bad community background. Maybe their whole neighborhood was filled with like low vibrational people. Maybe the entire city that they were from, their entire hometown was filled with low vibrational people. Their entire elementary school, their entire college experience, if they even went to college, maybe they've only been surrounded by low vibrational people because their parents did not care enough about them to take them out of those environments. And so this is why I say that here on this channel, we talk about sociology and psychology. We talk about getting yourself out of those environments and by social climbing and taking the initiative to get out of those environments yourself. And we don't care how you do it. I don't care if it took you a new hairstyle, a leveled up wardrobe, you had to lose 150 pounds. It doesn't matter how you get to your goal as long as you get there. But a lot of femcels don't understand that. And so they feel very stuck. And so this is why they get mad at you when you actually move out of the hood. This is why they get mad at you when you get a promotion at work. This is why they get mad at you when you lose the weight, when you change your hair texture, when you change your hairstyle or your makeup or whatever. When you do these things to change your appearance, they get mad at you because they know that that appearance change is a level up. And they feel like you're leveling past them because, of course, they have hierarchy thinking as well. Number 6, copycat behavior. They will bash what other women are doing while secretly trying to copy them. So they bash light-skinned women, and they accuse light-skinned women of being skin bleachers, as you guys can see with what they're trying to do with who they think I am. So they'll accuse somebody who was born light-skinned. They'll accuse you of being a skin bleacher because maybe you got lighter or you used a dark filter and then you took it off or whatever. They'll accuse you of bleaching, and then behind closed doors, they want to bleach their skin. They will accuse your hair of being damaged, but behind closed doors, they will be purchasing curly weaves. They will accuse your makeup of looking ugly, but then behind closed doors, they're buying your makeup shade. So that's why your makeup shade is always sold out, because they're buying it, because it gives them a sense of status to have MAC NC35 in their purse. And if you look at the detractors of the exotical space on YouTube, they will talk shit about the exoticals while simultaneously creating pretty privileged content. The exotical space is the one space that has popularized pretty privilege, privilege stacking, social climbing. We created the term MLS. That's my term. I created that term. So if you hear any other YouTube channels even using any of the terms that I previously mentioned, they got it from the exotical space. But that's a part of femcel and incel behavior. It's copycat behavior. So maybe they're trying to copy your phenotype. Maybe they're trying to copy your social status. And there's actually nothing wrong with emulating other people as long as you are not racist against those people and you're not trying to actively bash those people as a group. So for example, you don't hear me talking shit about blonde white women because I wear blonde highlights in my hair. So that would be hypocritical of me to bash blonde women and say, oh, well, they're so ugly. Oh, Asian women are so ugly. Indian women are ugly. They're mediocre. Ha ha, you got the same black man. That would be hypocritical of me to bash non-black women, knowing that I myself have worn non-black hair extensions or, different highlights or whatever. Or like I wear the fashion from K-pop and all that stuff. So femcel women, though, because they're not socially smart, and because they're not aware of sociology, they do this all the time. So they'll bash mixed race women while trying to look like a mixed woman. They will bash skinny women while secretly trying to lose weight. You know what I mean? So they have this copycat behavior. They'll bash the exotical space, but then they'll turn around and try to talk about dark femininity and privilege stacking, all of the things that the exotical brand is known for. They will try to usurp those exact talking points, and they won't even change the phrases. They will literally copy the exact phrasing, the editing, everything will be copied. And then they will not give you your credit, but that's okay because we're actually going to be calling out some people soon. By the way, please comment down below if you see any detractor channels of the exotical space trying to utilize any of our branding. Please comment down below so that we can do an expose video soon and collect our exotical tax. They will shit talk about pretty women while secretly trying to attain the pretty privilege. These women have no identity because they have an external locus of control, so they are constantly hopping on the bandwagon of the popular girls. So over in the Patreon, oh, by the way, be sure to join the Patreon. Be sure to get the Dark Femininity course. It's a 5-week-long course. But over in the Patreon, I was talking about how the golfing community is actually starting to become oversaturated by unambiguous black women because they're trying to socially copy white women who are dating the rich white male golfers and stuff. So now I'm seeing this trend in real life where you've got all of these random unambiguous black women who had no interest in golf before, but because they see the trends of these rich, kind of higher status women who hang out with men who golf or whatever, or they have this stereotype that men who golf have money and all that. Now you see them trying to go after doing all these different golf classes. You'll see them trying to learn golf all the time. Almost every time I go to the golf course, I will see pretty much about 70% unambiguous black women golfing. So it's the entire industry at this point, or at least locally, when it comes to beginners golf, it's literally starting to become oversaturated with these women who spent their lives as femcels, but they're trying to hop on the bandwagon of the pretty girls. So femcels are coattail riders. They're constantly trying to hide behind you. They need you to be their representation. So this is why women will fight tooth and nail to keep the dark-skinned mixed women as their beauty representation. They will fight to keep you as the face of the unambiguous Black woman community because they want to ride your coattails. They want to ride the coattails of your beauty. A lot of them want to ride the coattails of other women's status. And I'm talking about femcel women, not all of them, but just the femcel ones. They want to ride the coattails of your beauty. So that's why they'll tell you, oh, you just look Black. Oh, but you're dark skinned, so you represent the dark skinned women. You actually don't have to if you don't want to represent them, but it's like they want to hide behind you as their representation because they're not confident enough to represent themselves. They don't feel like they are pretty enough to represent themselves. They don't feel like they're pretty enough to be their own beauty standard. They don't feel like they're pretty enough to represent themselves in their natural state or to have somebody else represent them who actually has the same DNA and the same racial background or whatever. So another aspect of femcel women is they're constantly riding the coattails of the popular girls. You know, they're constantly hopping on the bandwagon of the popular girls. So that is why a lot of people are trying to be detractors to the exotical space because they're still riding our bandwagon. They're still riding our coattails. It's because we are the pretty girls of YouTube. We are the it girls of YouTube. And so they want to ride the coattails of the it girls. But they don't want to give you your credit though. So it would be one thing if you're riding someone's coattails and you actually give them credit and say, hey, I really love how you look, you know, I want to do the same workout as you, or I think you're really pretty. I want to get my hair done like that. That's one thing. That's the normal way to social climb. But the incorrect way to social climb is to talk shit and be like, oh, well, you ain't even that pretty. You ain't even that cute. You ain't all that. And then behind their back, you're trying to copy everything they do. That is femcel behavior. Number 7, they cannot talk about themselves and get attention because no one cares about them. No one wants to be like them. So they can only get attention by gossiping about the women who are above them in the social hierarchy. And obviously I don't agree with hierarchy thinking, but femcels have hierarchy thinking. So these are the women who view themselves as not being at the top of the hierarchy. So they have a habit of constantly focusing on those who are above them. So these are the women who will stalk you on Instagram. They'll stalk your stories. They want to know, like, how did she get that beautiful? Like, is she using a filter? Did she get plastic surgery? Why does she look so light-skinned? Is she a bleacher? Is she this? Is she that? So femcels are constantly speculating about the women that they perceive as being above them socially. They're constantly trying to figure you out. These are the basic Bettys at your job who want to know about your personal life. They're constantly asking, well, who is she sleeping with? Who is she dating? You know, they're obsessed with like who these pretty celebrities are dating and who they're sleeping with and stuff. I don't see them covering who Whoopi Goldberg is dating. You know why? Because they don't think Whoopi Goldberg is pretty. They don't care about who Viola Davis has dated because they don't look up to Viola Davis because she looks too similar to them. We're talking about unambiguous Black femcels in this video. So they're not concerned about like all the different guys Normani is dating or Francesca Rivers. They don't care about who those women are dating. No. They want to know who the popular girls are dating. They want to know about Ice Spice. They want to know about Tyla. They want to know about all these women that are exoticals, all these women who are mixed race or they benefit from an ism. They want to know about those women. So femcels, they have a habit of hierarchy thinking, and so their life is actually directed by hierarchy thinking. Femcels are male-centered, and they're also whiteness-centered. This is the only space on YouTube that decenters whiteness and decenters men. And the reason that I did that was because I know that if I don't do that with this channel, a lot of unambiguous Black women, they're going to try to deflect from the actual talking points by constantly bringing up men or constantly bringing up what white people think. So a lot of femcels, they revolve their lives around what do white people think of me? What do white women think of me? Do white women think they're better than me? Do white men think they're better than me? Okay, white men are at the top. I place them on a hierarchy. So let me try to sleep with a white man. Let me try to have a baby by a white man. So they have this male-centered identity and they also have a whiteness-centered identity. Number 8. Bitterness. Femcels are usually bitter against men, and they are bitter against the women who get picked. Remember, in order to be a femcel, you have to be male-centered, and so that's why I said they're bitter against the women who get picked. So these are your aunties and your cousins, the obese, fat ones, the fat femcels. These are the ones who say that you're fast when you're a little girl, or they say you're trying to sleep with people. They say that you're trying to show your booty or you're trying to show your boobs, and you're only 9 years old. It's because she's a femcel. She already sees the fact that you are desirable or more desirable than her, or she's living vicariously through you. So she has this mindset of, if I looked like you, I would be a slut, and so you must be a slut because you look like you could be one if you wanted to. So these women are usually bitter against the women who get picked, or they're bitter against the women that they perceive as being higher up on a social hierarchy. Some femcel talking points are, you can't keep a man, you got the same black man, or you still got cheated on. So the reason they're saying that is because a femcel bases her entire worth on how a man treats her. So her entire self-worth and value is based on whether or not she's getting spoiled by a man or what kind of attention she's getting from a man. She's male-centered. And so that's why she's telling you, you're not valuable, basically, because you're single, or you're not valuable because you got abused. So if a man treats you like trash, it means that you are trash in a femcel's eyes. Because literally her whole entire self-worth is based on how a man treats her. So she feels like, if a man treats me like a queen, it means I am a queen. And if a man disrespects me, it means I'm not worthy of respect. Think about that black woman that I just showed, where she said that, like, oh, light-skinned women are jealous because I'm being loved well. Well, she's actually being male-centered, because she's saying that she is high value simply because she's being loved well by Santa Claus, her husband, who was this old white man. But a woman who is truly confident and truly has an internal locus of control, she keeps her state of value regardless of what other people are doing. She still has self-esteem. That's why it's called self-esteem. It's not called relationship esteem. It's not called white male esteem. It's not called divestment esteem. It's not called the black community esteem. No, it is self-esteem. So it's supposed to be based on yourself. But femcels who have this external locus of control, they're constantly worried about what men think of them, what white people think of them. Does she think she's better than me? Oh, she's skinnier than me. Oh, she's lighter than me. Does she think she's better? Did she bleach herself? Is she wearing a weave? How is she that pretty? Did she use a filter? Did she Photoshop herself? Let me stalk her Instagram stories. Let me stalk everything she's doing at work so I can try to find flaws in her work and then send emails out to everybody else. Femcel behavior. She has an external locus of control. She's externally focused because there's nothing interesting about her life. There's nothing interesting and intriguing about her particular beauty. There's nothing interesting or intriguing that she finds about herself. You are the celebrity. I told you guys in one of my previous videos, pretty women get treated like celebrities. So femcels are the ones who will treat you like the celebrity. They'll make videos about you. They'll try to take screenshots of your Instagram stories, or they'll try to stalk you, or they'll try to see who you're dating, see who your boyfriend is. What kind of men does she attract? You know what I mean? They're thinking about what you're attracting because she's not attracting anything. She doesn't get any attention. She doesn't have any attention to manage. If you think about women who are royalty, think about the women of the royal court back in the old days. They have a kingdom that they're managing, so they're not worried about who the peasants are dating. You know what I mean? But femcels, they have a mindset of a social peasant. That's really what their life is in their own eyes. They see themselves as social peasants. They see themselves as just receiving the breadcrumbs of pretty privilege, receiving the breadcrumbs of white male validation, receiving the breadcrumbs of Hollywood validation. So they're constantly scraping at the bottom. It's almost like how a squirrel runs around the garbage can to scrape all the acorns and scrape all the nuts and the trash, and how pigeons come in and they try to get up all the scraps. This is what femcels are doing on a social perspective. So they'll try to scrape at the crumbs of your social status. Think about the women who make YouTube videos against the exotical space. They're trying to scrape off the crumbs of my subscribers. They're trying to scrape off the crumbs of my viewers. They're trying to scrape off the crumbs of my brand, or of your brand if you have an exotical channel. Think about the women at work who copy your makeup and your lipstick and they copy how you dress. They copy your diet. I've had women try to copy my diet, for God's sakes. So they're trying to scrape up at the social crumbs of your status. They will try to sleep with your ex. These women, they're scraping at your sloppy seconds, basically. They're trying to scrape at who you used to be with. The types of men you used to like, or they're trying to scrape up the bottom of the barrel, men of the white community, men of the Asian community. So it's like this constant scraping up of crumbs. Femcels, women who view themselves as social peasants. And what they don't realize is that they actually have a choice. You can choose to view yourself as being a queen, or you can choose to view yourself as being a peasant. But femcels, they view themselves as social peasants, and they will admit it because they'll say, I'm at the bottom, or we are the least protected and the least provided for, and we are the last to get picked, and whatever. So they will choose to internalize negative statistics about themselves. They'll choose to internalize negative imagery about themselves, which is why they get mad at women like Sexy Red or whatever, because they see themselves in Sexy Red. I have no idea what Sexy Red is doing right now. All I know is that she had some sort of makeup line where it had like crazy names, and I know one song by Sexy Red. Other than that, I have no idea what's going on with Sexy Red because I don't even see my image in Sexy Red. I cannot relate. I can't relate to her. I don't see myself in her. And so therefore, I don't really even keep up. I don't get emotionally triggered by what she does because I view her as her own individual person. She is not my representation. So why would I get mad at what she's doing? She's a grown woman. I'm a grown woman. She has her own life and her own brand. I have my own life and my own brand. But another thing that femcels struggle with, though, is living vicariously through others. So remember, they struggle with limerence. Limerence is like when you have a crush on someone that you don't know. So a lot of them have this limerence of non-black men. They will make all these videos with all these taglines like, once you go Asian, your credit gets to raisin. That was from Lexus Exodus. She's a divestment channel who called us multicultural see you next Tuesdays. Yeah, that same girl. So she has taglines like that. Those are femcel talking points. So femcels struggle with limerence and they struggle with living vicariously through others. So they will live vicariously through the Exoticals. They will live vicariously through women who are prettier than them. They will pretend like they look like Lori Harvey or whatever. They'll say, Lori Harvey's an unambiguous black woman. No, she's not. She's not unambiguous because the term unambiguous means that there's no debate about your features. So the fact that people debate over Lori Harvey's skin tone or her eye color and her facial features, that means that there's ambiguity. Ambiguity means that there are contradictory experiences that you have, and it means that there is a debate about your features. So by definition, Lori Harvey would not be unambiguous because she does not have an unambiguously black, dark skin tone. She does not have an unambiguously black hair texture or unambiguously black, undebatable black features. But women who are femcels, they're so used to constantly living vicariously through people who don't look like them. So they'll kind of like mentally pretend that they look like Lori Harvey, for example. So this is where all of those phrases come in, like wig blindness, skin tone blindness, hair texture blindness, makeup blindness. Yeah, it's because they're actually mentally ill. Well, I wouldn't even call them mentally ill. It's more like they practice escapism. Femcels practice a lot of escapism. They will try to escape through either sex and promiscuity if they can. So some femcels, they can be desperate enough to where, maybe if they pressure a guy enough to sleep with her, maybe she will get the guy to sleep with her. I know that some of you guys are going to say, okay, well then she's technically not a femcel, but I still put it in the femcel category because I feel like femcels exist on a spectrum, and I feel like female femcels are different than like incels. But a lot of these women, they practice escapism. They will escape through smoking a lot of weed. They'll escape through drinking a lot or maybe partying a lot. These are the types of women where maybe they abandon their children so they can go to the clubs or, do whatever. And I'm not talking about having a fun time once a month or something. No, I'm talking about literally abandoning and neglecting their own children so that they can escape. They're constantly looking to escape their reality rather than controlling and creating their reality. So that's the difference between a femcel versus an empowered woman. An empowered woman creates her reality, whereas a femcel tries to escape her reality. Femcels are afraid of being left behind. So whenever they see other women leveling up, they will try to drag those women down because she has the mindset of, if I can't level up, neither can you. If I can't gain subscribers, neither can you. If I can't be pretty, neither can you. If I don't get to be light-skinned, neither do you. You're brown. You're just brown. If I don't get to have curly hair, neither can you. You must have a texturizer. You must have done Bantu knots. You probably did a twist out. If I don't get to be multicultural, neither can you. So they have this mindset of sabotaging others because they have an abandonment wound. They don't want to feel isolated and abandoned. They don't want to feel left behind socially because that's their whole existence, is feeling left behind socially. And so if you say anything or if you do anything that shows that you are socially fluid, then they're going to try to stop you because they don't want to feel abandoned by you. They don't want to feel socially left behind. So they'll try to tell you, oh, but you're still black. So usually they will try to use guilt against you. I noticed they do this with men as well. They'll say that like a man is self-hating if he dates a light-skinned woman, or if he dates a mixed woman or something like that. So they feel abandoned. That's why. They feel like they've been abandoned in the dating market. So that's why they try to guilt who other men are dating. They feel abandoned socially or in terms of skin tone. They don't want to feel like the only dark-skinned person or the darkest person or whatever. So they get upset when you call yourself light-skinned. They want to say, oh, you're not light-skinned, you're brown, or you're light brown. And they're saying that because they have to approximate themselves to the dominant group. They want to approximate themselves to whoever they feel is above them socially because they suffer very deeply from hierarchy thinking. Number 10. These are the women who will try to sabotage your growth. They will bash you for losing weight and say you have no ass. They'll shame you if you change your appearance at all. Let's say you get a plastic surgery, you get your body done, you get a new hairstyle, whatever, new hair color. They don't want anyone to get more attention than them. Because like I said, they're constantly scraping around for the breadcrumbs of attention as is. And so if you're getting more attention, if you got a new hairstyle now, and now you're getting even more attention, if you got a new weave or whatever, now she wants to try to shame you for wearing a weave. Meanwhile, she's had a lace front glued to her head for the last 35 years, and she doesn't even have any edges at all. But you got a sew-in, and you look really cute, and so now she wants to try to shame you for your weave, or she wants to call out in front of everyone, oh, well, that's a weave. That's a sew-in. Oh, she got that cheap synthetic sew-in. Like, she wants to try to call it out because she doesn't want anyone to get more attention than her, because this goes back to feeling abandoned. She feels abandoned and isolated, like she's just the outcast. It brings up her PTSD. It is a PTSD trigger. It brings up her memories of childhood when she was left on the playground by herself. It brings up her memories of high school when she didn't fit in with the popular crowd. I told you guys the story of this one unambiguous black girl. She was mean to me from when she first met me, and then she admitted, she said that I reminded her of her high school bully. She said that I looked like her bully in high school, who was this light-skinned cheerleader girl who she didn't fit in with. So that's PTSD. PTSD means that you have traumas from the past that are constantly coming up in your mind for years to come. So my phenotype, something as simple as a skin tone or phenotype, or how you carry yourself, how you dress, wearing a skirt, for God's sakes, triggered somebody else's PTSD. That's how bad the PTSD is of a woman who is like a femcel. So they don't want to get left behind, and you getting more attention than her, that makes her feel left behind. So that's why she gets mad when she goes with you to the bar and you get hit on. She gets pissed off when you get a free drink and she doesn't, because she feels left behind once again. She's got that abandonment wound. She feels abandoned in terms of pretty privilege because you're a 10 out of 10, she's a 2 out of 10. So you've left her in the dust in her mind. Number 11, femcels hide behind being real and authentic. So this mindset comes from the ghetto. Oh, well, I'm real. I keep it 100. I always rep my city. So they have this groupthink mindset where they always want to be the representative for where they came from, which stops them from growing and evolving. Because if you become rich and if you move out of the hood, they'll say, you're a sellout. Well, you had to sell out the black community. You don't give any money back to the hood. So they're trying to guilt you, saying you're not real, you're not keeping it 100, you're not down with the hood, like you're not down with me. So it's like this gang mob mentality to where you're not allowed to evolve, you're not allowed to grow, you're not allowed to go from monocultural to multicultural, you're not allowed to move out of the hood, you're not allowed to lose weight because you've been a big girl all your life. And all your friends are big girls. So did you know that there's actually a phenomenon where big women, when they lose weight, they actually lose a lot of friends. And this goes back to that mindset. Femcels hide behind being real. So they feel like whoever you have been in the past, that's the real you. And anything other than that is like quote unquote fake. And obviously that's a very closed-minded way to think. I don't want to be the same person that I was 20 years ago. That's called being immature. That's called not growing. So it's like, sis, what have you been doing for the past 55 years? Have you been in the same mindset and the same clothing and the same culture as back in 1985? Like, that sounds horrible to me. But a lot of femcels and people who come from these backgrounds, these underprivileged backgrounds, they do sometimes have this mindset of, oh, I got to be real, or I got to be authentic, or, you're not really down. You're not really black. Like, you lose your black card if you start kind of expanding your horizons. Let's say you go off to college and you go to a PWI, you go to a predominantly white institution, or you get an education or something. Suddenly you're no longer black. Suddenly you no longer fit in and you're not real anymore. You're a sellout, or you're trying to be white, or you wish you were light-skinned. That's another thing. You're acting light-skinned, or you're acting uppity. So basically you're sedity. You're high sedity, or you're uppity. You're a highfalutin Negro is what a lot of people will say. So they have this mindset of, you got to be real and you got to be down, and you have to always rep your city, and you're not allowed to grow. You're not allowed to evolve. You're not allowed to set aside the things from that culture that no longer serve you, because no culture is perfect. That includes black culture. Okay. And this is one of the only channels on YouTube that holds black women in particular accountable for trying to hold back other black women from growing and evolving. So there's no such thing as a perfect culture. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Indian. Nobody has a perfect culture with no flaws. And so if you start to kind of let go of the toxic parts of black culture, sometimes black femcels, they'll be like, oh, well, you're not being real. You're trying to be white. You're trying to act light skinned. You're trying to fit in with the light skinned girls. You're trying to fit in with the mixed girls. You're trying to fit in with Hispanic people. So they want to guilt you because you decided to set aside the toxic mindsets from your previous community. So you're not allowed to grow. You're not allowed to evolve. You're not allowed to change. You're not allowed to reach higher heights in life. You have to just stay exactly where you are. You have to stay in the same neighborhood. You have to keep the same body type that you had. You have to keep the same exact hairstyles from 1985. Otherwise, you're trying to be fake and you're trying to be bougie, and you're just trying to look like an IG influencer. Oh, you look like a hoe. You look like a thought. You're trying too hard. Who are you trying to impress? So they're going to give you all of these talking points about how suddenly you're not real and you're not authentic and you're a fraud. They want you to feel like a fraud because they struggle with imposter syndrome. That's actually another big side effect of being a femcel, is imposter syndrome. So they want you to feel like you're an imposter. You don't fit in with those college kids. You don't fit in with those white people at work. You don't fit in with that white man that you're dating. You don't fit in with the Hispanic community because you're only half Hispanic. You don't fit in with the white community. You're only a quarter white. Only your grandparent is white, not you. So they've constantly, they've got this mindset of everything has to be real and authentic. And of course, they get to decide what's real and authentic. You don't get to decide what's authentic to you. You don't get to grow and evolve. They have to be the end-all, be-all person who gets to decide whether or not you are authentic. That is one of the biggest Blackistan, femcel, and incel talking points that I've ever heard. So a lot of people, those people who are fans of a rock band or an R&B artist when they're underground, and then as soon as they go mainstream, they don't like that person anymore. That is the mindset of a lot of femcels in the black community. So they feel like you are real and you were authentic when you were the underdog. You know why? It's because you were more relatable to them as the underdog. But now that you're the top dog, now that you're no longer in the hood and you've leveled up, now that you lost the weight and you've leveled up, now that you've got more social status, basically. So you made some changes that caused you to gain social status, and now they are upset. And so that's why they're saying, well, you're not real. You're not even authentic. You're not down anymore. You forgot who you are. You forgot where you came from. That is a guilting tactic. They're just mad because you now have access to more social status than them. And these are the same types of people who will say things like, black people don't go hiking. Black people don't go to wine tasting. That's white people stuff. Black people don't get plastic surgery. What I need surgery for? My melanin is already popping. I already got a big ass. I don't need no liposuction. That shit is for white girls. Okay, so they have this obsession with being real, and it hinders them from doing anything to enhance themselves. It makes them closed-minded because they can't change anything. So whoever you were back in 1985, that's who you always have to be. So these are the women who sit around on their front porch in a rocking chair reminiscing on the good old days. These are the women who can't keep up with the times. Their wigs are always like the auntie wigs. They call them auntie wigs because they look outdated. They look like the old Mary J. Blige wigs from 1991, so they will wear these old clothes, these old wigs. They'll have these old outdated mindsets, and they're constantly stuck in the past. because they have this limiting belief of, I'm not allowed to grow, I'm not allowed to change. You're never allowed to change. That's another limiting belief of a femcel. She can't change. She can't change her hair. She can't change her clothes. She can't change her weight. She can't change her educational opportunities. She cannot change where she lives. So she has to stay in her hometown. She can't stop dating the ghetto pookies or whatever because, that's a betrayal. She feels like any form of change is a betrayal. So that's another very immature mindset. And this is why they're always behind. They're always behind on leveling up. They take much longer to leveling up because they spend so much time bashing the innovators and bashing the people who change things. They're always bashing the creators. So think about how many people bashed Steve Jobs. Think about how many people bashed certain music genres when they first came out. Those are the people with this mindset of, you're not allowed to change. You're not allowed to grow. So that's a part of why people bash the exotical space. It's because this is an innovative space. This is the first Black adjacent space that decenters whiteness and decenters men. I have never seen that in the history of YouTube. I don't care if they were light-skinned creators, if they were biracial creators. I've never seen that. So the exotical space is by definition an innovative space. And so the people who are bashing it are actually the people who have this mindset of, you're not allowed to change, you're not allowed to grow. This is the status quo. You have to stick to the status quo. You have to stick to how it always was. You're not allowed to change how you identify. You're not allowed to change your mindset. You're not allowed to change the culture because this is the way it's always been. And if people like Martin Luther King or Barack Obama or Rosa Parks or all of the people who fought for the development of the African American community, if they would have had that mindset, we would be fucked as a people. So these idiots who have this mindset that you can never change, they actually should be grateful that there were people who were courageous enough and bold enough to try to create change. But like I said, those types of women, those types of femcel women who feel like you can't change, or if you change, you're not real anymore, they're constantly going to be behind. So you can't save them. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Number 13, femcels are always living in a state of chaos. Their living situation is chaotic. They've got kids or dogs yelling in the background. They live in a loud neighborhood where you can hear their neighbors bumping their music, or maybe they like loud noises and loud music all the time. They can't be in a state of silence or peace. They have to sleep with the TV on. They have to constantly be bumping loud music. They will tap their acrylic nails on their cubicle 24/7. They're constantly jiggling their legs and stuff and kind of like shaking and fidgeting all the time. They're used to being in a state of chaos. They don't know how to mind their own business. They don't know how to be in a state of peace. They've never even heard of meditating. They don't even know how to meditate. They don't know how to calm down their mind. So they have these racing minds, and because their mind is always racing and their mind is always busy, they are always busy. These are the nosy women. They don't know how to mind their own business because they don't have any business. So if you look at some of these gossip channels online and stuff, and they don't have a brand, they just create channels so they can talk shit about others, or the women at your job who send emails just so they can gossip about others, they're always talking about others, never themselves. Yeah, it's because they don't have anything going on in their life. They don't have anything interesting about themselves. Nobody's interested in them. Nobody gives a fuck about them. That's why. Their own family members don't even give a fuck about them. So why should they give an F about themselves? They don't. They give a fuck about you because you are the celebrity in their mind. You are the topic of conversation. You are the one with the social status. You are royalty. They are a peasant, according to their own mindset. Number 14, femcels are the female dusties of the women's community. These women are leveled down in terms of looks, education, and social climbing in general, so they are closed-minded. How do femcels behave around men? Usually they will try to ruin the pedestals of beautiful women. So this is something that basic Betties at your job will do. They want to call out your beauty enhancements in hopes that you do not receive any pretty privilege. They will always, always, always try to call you out in a public place. They always want to call you out in front of men in particular. They want to call you out in front of your friends because they want to shame you. They will not allow you to receive your flowers. Femcels never, ever, ever will give you your flowers. They'll never give you validation. They will never admit that you're beautiful. Do you have a femcel mother? That's why. She'll never admit that you're beautiful. She'll never admit that you're smart. She'll never admit that you surpassed her. Number 15, Femcels participate in cancel culture. Anybody who follows this channel or understands sociology knows that cancel culture is not real. Cancel culture does not work. You cannot make someone unfamous. Once they're already famous, the fame is there. People already know who they are. So there's no way that you can cancel Chris Brown or whatever. You can stop buying their music or whatever, but people still are going to know who he is. People are still going to know who Donald Trump is. So once you reach a certain level, I mean, the only way that you can really get canceled is if you cancel yourself. But femcels, because they have that external locus of control, they think that cancel culture is actually a thing. And so they'll try to defame people. They will try to bash other people. And they don't understand that human beings have their own minds. You can't control what somebody else thinks. So whoever supports that person, they're going to continue to support that person. Number 16, they struggle with narcissism. Some of the symptoms of narcissism are a lack of empathy and entitlement. And we all know that when a femcel perceives you as being prettier than her, she instantly has a lack of empathy for you. So think about how many women make fun of Exoticals getting unalived by black men, or the women who had no empathy for Cassie and Diddy. Those women are femcels. They're jealous of your social status in society, and they're jealous of your influence and beauty and the compliments that you receive from others. So that prevents them from having any empathy for you when something bad happens. Let's talk about entitlement. One of the symptoms of entitlement is unreasonable expectations. Did you have a mother who put unreasonable expectations on you as a child? She's a femcel, okay? So think about the unreasonable expectations of the exotical space. If we call ourselves the Pretty Girl Club, we all have to be perfectly pretty 24/7. We have to be the prettiest women in the world with perfect bodies, perfect faces, perfect hair, perfect skin. It all has to be natural. We're not allowed to age. We're not allowed to use beauty enhancements. Meanwhile, unambiguous black women, they can change their whole hair texture. They can change their entire skin complexion. They can change their entire face via contouring and makeup to match ours. So there's this entitlement that a femcel has, and a part of entitlement is placing unrealistic expectations onto others. Let's talk about their hypergamy and swirling divestment talking points. Oh, he's just going to be this perfect man who has all these multi-millions of dollars, and he's attractive, and he's your type, and you're his type, and he's faithful and loyal, and he's going to love you and care for you and buy you flowers every single day, and you're going to get pasta and lobster. That is the definition of femcel entitlement. But another thing about a femcel is she will project onto you. So remember how they said we're all bleachers? Anyone who watches me knows that I'm obviously not a bleacher. I was born light-skinned. But when you're a femcel, you will try to project onto others what you would do if you were in their situation. And also notice how in the exotical space, a part of the entitlement that femcels have with us exoticals is we are not allowed to clap back. We're not allowed to name call. We're not allowed to respond. In fact, one of the gaslighting talking points of a femcel is she will say, you're too sensitive. You can't take criticism. Okay, they're saying that because you're not tolerating their emotional abuse. So if you don't take their emotional abuse, you can't take criticism, or you're too sensitive, or you're acting like a bitch, or you're being a pussy, or whatever it is. So they'll say this to women or men. They'll say this to their own sons. They'll say this to their own husbands or exes or baby daddies, whatever. So if you don't tolerate her emotional abuse, then you're just overly sensitive. But another symptom of femcel entitlement is punishing others. Femcels want to emotionally punish you. So if you look better than her, or if she thinks you look better than her, she will emotionally punish you by trying to call out teeny tiny flaws in your appearance. So they can never give credit where credit is due. They will never admit that you're pretty. They'll never admit that you're actually smart, or that the exotical space actually has excellent content. They'll never admit that you actually have a good business plan. One of the ways to combat this is to never seek validation from a femcel. I don't care if she's your mother. I don't care if she's your sister or your cousin or your coworker. Never seek validation from a femcel. They don't know how to give proper validation because they don't receive validation. So this is why I have burned the cape. I'm not caping for women who wouldn't cape for me. I'm not showing empathy to women who wouldn't show empathy to me. I am not admitting or acknowledging the beauty of women who won't acknowledge my beauty. If you don't call me pretty, I'm not calling you pretty, bitch. If you don't compliment me, bitch, I'm not complimenting you. If you don't support my business, I'm not supporting your business. Okay, so never seek validation from a femcel. There's nothing you can do to get them to finally treat you how you want to be treated. So the best thing you can do is either keep the same energy or pay them dust. Because a femcel wants you to feel insecure. She wants you to feel emotional pain. She wants you to feel isolated. That's why she's telling you, you're not that light skinned, you're not that pretty, you're not that cute. Oh, well, you're dark skinned anyway, so you won't fit in with those light skinned girls. Oh, you're too dark to be mixed. She's saying that because she wants you to feel emotionally dysregulated. That's exactly what she wants. She would be so happy if you quit talking about your racial mix. She would be so happy if you did not have self-esteem. She would be so happy if you quit YouTube. She'd be so happy if you stopped losing weight and if you stopped looking your best. She would be so happy if you stopped leveling up. Never give the femcel the satisfaction. They want you to feel insecure. They want you to doubt your own beauty. They want your pedestal to fall. They want you to doubt your racial heritage and your racial background. That's why they're telling you, you're not mixed enough. You're not light-skinned enough. They want you to feel isolated like you have no one because she has no one. So she really wants you to get emotionally dysregulated. She wants you to feel insecure. That's her goal. Her goal is to make you feel insecure. Her goal is to turn you into an angry, bitter woman because that's what she is. She wants you to become like her. Misery loves company. But if you have an internal locus of control, your pedestal is never going to fall because you are the only one who controls it. Another aspect of a femcel is they think that you owe them your solidarity. So they think that you owe them loyalty because of your blackness or because of your proximity to blackness. Do not give loyalty to women who wouldn't give loyalty to you. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.